Hi, guys. Okay. You guys look so young. Wow, this is a great audience. Rob, all you guys, this is fantastic. This is a really terrific event, and I've had a chance to meet some great people, and it's awesome. So kudos to you guys for participating in doing this. It's really fantastic. And I've heard some great speakers today. It's been terrific. I mean, just listening to those stories, it's been so inspirational. I felt like I wanted to go out and start a business right away. And I thought for a second, wait a minute. Permjot invested in Jack, who's a 15-year-old. I have a 15-year-old. If I can just make that linkage, then I could be all set. And so my 15-year-old, I have two, 15, 19, two boys. Between them, they average playing about 8 sports. My 15-year-old plays 8. And he plays all these sports, and he comes home a few months ago and says, Dad, I just signed up for the rugby team. And I said, rugby? Why are you going to play rugby? You're a hockey player. So anyway, he's playing rugby. His last game was last night. And he calls me after the game from the hospital. And he's okay, but I thought, okay, you've been playing all your life, every sport going, and you're in the hospital playing rugby. I said, like, they think hockey players, they think it's a tough sport. I said, okay. Anyway, he found the sport that he loves. He still plays hockey. And it's been a wonderful experience to figure out what this game is, because it's really cool. But I'm here today to talk about a little bit of a different topic. And first of all, I think, like, what is an entrepreneur? How do you define an entrepreneur? Is it somebody that starts a business? So does that mean everybody that starts a business is an entrepreneur? Or can you be an entrepreneur without starting a business? Or can you have the traits of an entrepreneur and do something else? I want to try and explore that a little bit with you today. So there's me. There's my wife and kids, a little spot in Halifax, Nova Scotia. How many people have been there? Oh, come on. Okay. How many people know where it is? All right, okay, we're there. Okay, well, you got to come and visit. We're the gateway to North America, much like Cape Town's the gateway to South Africa. South Africa is the gateway to Africa. There's lots of South Africans in Nova Scotia. Here's the whole group. And I know a lot of them, but what I can't figure out, we've got over 300, but we only have 63 that like us. So it's a fun group. Yeah. So, how else would you want to see Cape Town? This is, I have to say, I've done a lot of traveling. This is the most beautiful city in the world. It's absolutely stunning. It's unbelievable. And to see it going 200 kilometers up the side of a mountain, it's even more beautiful. So, again, this is not my car. This is Justin in a nice Ferrari ride the other day in a beautiful sunshine. I told Justin that I'm going to return the favor when you come to Halifax. I got a family SUV with a lot of junk in the back and stuff. I said, it's bigger than yours, but it's not as fast. So, I want to talk about this addiction of entrepreneurship and what it means. And again, how do you apply some of the traits that you see? My favorite, Richard Branson, Rick I call him, actually I don't really know him, but this was at the Summer Olympics in Vancouver. Again, I followed this guy for a long time because I saw him speak years ago, and I'm always amazed at how many new things he comes up with. And I look around the room, and there's probably 50 Richard Bransons in the room here that I'm going to read about in the next 5 or 10 years. So are entrepreneurs born or are they made? There's a lot of research on this, and I don't know the answer, but there seems to be some suggestion that there's some traits that people have that are in them and they need to be brought out. You know, they're creative. They're self-motivated. You know, they take on new challenges. They wake up at 3 a.m, as we heard earlier. You know, they're dynamic. They're risk takers. All these traits, are they in all of us or are they in some of us? And if they're in all of us or some of us, how do we get those traits out? And is our school system designed to create an entrepreneurial culture and to reward success and encourage failure because that may lead to success? And I don't know, I mean, there's probably lots of similarities between where I am in Nova Scotia and Cape Town. I suspect the answer is probably no, that we all have a lot of work to do. But how do these people here go to these people? And how do you drive that desire that we see in people and make it come out? You guys have traits of an entrepreneur. You've got the drive. You wouldn't be here today. You've got an idea. You've got the enthusiasm, the drive. You're self-motivated. All those things. I'm sure this was you someday. A few years ago. It was me a long time ago. But how do you go to get to these guys? How do you drive that culture? And how old do you have to be an entrepreneur? As a former president, that's the guy on the left, how do you actually take some of those, like who would have thought Bill Clinton, what are you, crazy? But you think since he's left the presidency, like what has he done? He's involved in more organizations and more startups, and he just started another one, the Clinton Economic Organization, which helps entrepreneurs in disadvantaged areas across the U.S. So he's got something in him that makes him want to go and do these things. And these are traits that I think are in many people. And how do you encourage people, young people, to take that first step out of the crowd, put your hand up, and I want to do this. I want to start my own business. I want to venture out and want to separate myself from the crowd. And when do you know you have an idea? And what do you do with it? And how do you encourage that? So my name is Stephen Lund, and I have entrepreneurialism. I need to spread it. I think I have some traits that you guys have. I don't have all the traits that you guys have. You guys are young, dynamic. You're doing really cool things that I could only think of. But I think in all of us, we've got some of these traits that we need to nurture. And so I want to give you an example of how something that's applied to me and how I've done it, taking some of the traits that you guys all have. So I went, that's not my car, by the way. I went from working with the biggest venture capital company in Canada to going into a startup organization that was a government crown corporation charged with trying to grow the economy of Nova Scotia. And we're 1 million people in our economy. And so the reaction I got obviously was, oh, like, are you crazy? But let me tell you what I did, and then I'll tell you how I did it, and you can see what I'm talking about. So in the last 5 years, our organization created thousands of jobs across our province. We generated over $1 billion in new payroll, more than 50% more than our goal. We helped our local companies branch out across the world, and last year alone, we took them to over 40 countries around the world. We attracted the biggest companies in the world to Nova Scotia to set up in every sector that we work in. The top 6 are defense companies, digital media companies, financial services companies, IT. We just set up the first global delivery center in Canada in analytics for IBM. BlackBerry does all their work on their new product in Halifax. And we also invested over $50 million in local companies. So we did that in the last 5 years, and we're really proud of what we were able to do. But how we did it was we treated it like a startup organization and not like a government bureaucracy. And the way we did that was I went and hired people who I thought were entrepreneurs. I wanted people that were hardworking, aggressive, that would take a risk, that would try and fail at something and try something else, that had great ideas, right? That had the passion to want to do something different. And I know it's a bit dissimilar to saying, let's go start up a company, but I really believe the traits that you exhibit can be used elsewhere. And I think that we can all use these traits elsewhere. And so we built that organization to the point today where we're considered a private sector organization that works with business instead of a government bureaucracy. And I think we can apply these same traits in our own backyard. I think whether it's in government, whether it's in the school system, or whether it's in the hospital system, whether it's in your local organization, whatever it happens to be, I think these traits that make an entrepreneur so successful are traits that can be applied in everyday life. And I really believe that, and I really think that we need to make sure that we figure out how to get the best out of our young kids, because they're going to be sitting where you are today, and they're going to be driving the world in the next 10 or 20 years. Lane Becker, I think, might have spoken here before, spoke recently in Halifax, and made the point that you really need a culture of trying. You need a culture of support. You need a community and a strong ecosystem that recognizes the work being done and supports the work being done by entrepreneurs or people with entrepreneurial traits. And I look at where we are in Halifax, and you know, we have a lot of work to do in this. We've got some great startups and stuff, and lots of cool things, and some similar to what you have here, but we still have some work to do. But I think it's a job that we really have to recognize and really have to try and support. And so Nova Scotia, we were traditionally, you know, fishing, farming, forestry, a lot of traditional industries. Today, we're really a young, vibrant city. We have more universities and more university students than any place in Canada and possibly North America. We have a bunch of really cool tech startups. The last year, we've had 3 young tech startups get acquired, one for $80 million, one for $360 million, one for $560 million. So, I mean, that's really big money in our area. And that just feeds more and more entrepreneurism. And really, and that combined with some really cool clusters. So there's a lot happening. And you know, I look at what we're doing, and I look at the audience here, and I think, you know, you guys have so much really cool stuff you're working on. And some of the things I saw earlier that, you know, you're leading the world in. It's really impressive to see. So at the end of the day, my message is really that you guys are really driving the world today, and it's really, and I kind of sit at it from the other side in terms of, you know, a venture capital background and trying to work, but it's really amazing to see the development and hear the stories today of these great success stories driving the world, and so I applaud everybody here for taking those steps. But I also believe that we all have a job to do to make sure the message gets out that we need a supportive culture, a supportive ecosystem, and we need to really support our young people and what they do and encourage them to take that step. And really making sure that you know, in our school system or whether at home, that we need to identify those traits early and really drive it home and really support them and make them feel good. So we can have 3 times the audience here today, or next year, or 6 times the year after that. So I think there's a lot of work that we all can do on that respect. And so I'd like to close by saying, for those few hands that went up that were in Nova Scotia, it's great to see you. For everybody else, come and explore. We'd love to have you here. We have a beautiful place. Again, this is an incredibly beautiful spot. We'd love to see you there. Get that number up and get that number from 63 up. So I really appreciate having the chance to come and meet with you today. Again, I'd love to come back and just follow the progress, because I think what you're doing is really cool, and you've got a great thing going here. So thanks for the invitation to join you, and I look forward to having a chance to chat. Thank you.